So I wanted to ask you a personal question now.
Okay.
Was there ever a moment where you were, you've been a writer for such a long time. Was there ever a moment while you were writing that you felt like, that was it? I wasn't going to be able to write anymore. The door is closed for me. I'm going to have to, I'm not going to make it. Was there ever a moment in your career?
Yes.
And what was it? Like, what happened?
A couple of times. One was before I started writing Star Trek books, and after I wrote my first 4 books for Warner's Questar line. The editor at the time, not the original editor, but the next editor. There's a thing called being an orphan. When you're a writer, you're kind of hired by one editor. The editor leaves. The next editor goes, well, that's her writer.
Yeah.
So the new editor said to me, Mike, thanks. Really good stuff. That's great. Okay, we'll see you. And I said, what? I have another idea. He goes, yeah, but we've tried you out. You didn't sell 1 million copies. So now we're going to try the next guy. That's what it's like to be on the mid list.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that it? That could be it.
Of course.
And I was crestfallen. I was still grateful, honestly, that
Yeah.
I'd had a chance to do some books. But as you can imagine, writing isn't something you can just turn off
Yeah,
like a
of course.
faucet. It still wants to come out. It's like being pregnant, and having to deliver a baby every day. You can't just stop. So it was really painful to consider the possibility that I might be done. And then shortly after that, my agent came up with the invitation to write Star Trek books, and all was well again. And then, in fact, things accelerated very quickly.
Of course.
But being a young writer and not having any perspective, part of me said, yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
And then I guess about maybe 15 years ago, I was doing Star Trek books. I was writing Star Trek books. I had just finished my runs on Dark Stars and on Next Generation, and the comic book business was changing. Rates were going down, and competition was going up, and they were getting more and more people from the world of movies and TV. And in Star Trek, I could have continued to do Star Trek books, but I think I was saying, like, I don't know if I'd already done 35 of them. I don't know if what the world needed at the time so desperately was yet another Michael Friedman, Star Trek novel. So I was feeling stale, and I was feeling a little crowded out, and I went into teaching, and that actually worked out pretty well. But shortly after that, as I said, I couldn't just stop writing.
Of course.
Thought maybe I could, but I couldn't. So I started working independently. I did some work for some other publishing companies on like The Wolfman and Aliens and Predator, and so on. And then I started as things changed in the world of publishing. I started working independently. And pretty soon, and telling other writers, friends of mine, things are changing. I don't know if you noticed, but things are changing. Shortly after that, Borders went out of business, and publishing companies were reinventing themselves, becoming originators of brands and content rather than just distribution channels, right?
Yeah.
And things were changing, and I said we have to change too, because the main thing, the main components of this process are the reader and the writer. And if you can preserve that, you can preserve literature in general, and more to the point, in my area, science fiction and fantasy. You want to preserve that relationship. So I said, how can we do this? And we said, well, the means of distribution are now open to anyone, and the means of production are now open to anyone. and we can do this if we just have to get the word out and produce good stuff. So I helped to found a group called Crazy Eight Press, and we're still going. We published our first books, I think, in 2011, and we're still going pretty strong.
Wow.
And
Now, Crazy Eight is a group of 8 writers, right?
it's a group of 8 writers. It's now 8. It's been 6. It's been 7. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
And what we have in common is a desire to express our most heartfelt visions, the things that we would want to read if we were readers reading someone else's stuff. And these are our most authentic and original visions. And this is a chance for us to publish them. Not that we're necessarily never going to publish anywhere else, but this is our most personal stuff. And the way Crazy Eight Press is structured and the way we distribute, we don't need to sell, 100,000 copies of something to make a profit.
Absolutely.
So we try to put out good books in quality printed matter, and I think we've been really successful. We have a website, crazy8press.com, and I think we've got more than 30 books now
Wow, that's
on
crazy.
in our inventory, and I'm pretty sure probably even more than that. And we like working together.
That's the most important thing, is if you
Yeah.
guys all get along. And I think, you talk about how the industry has changed as far as publishing goes and everything. And I think it's really smart to align yourself with a group of 8 people, so you guys can all kind of share audiences and kind of get the word out directly to the fans, because over the course of your lifetimes, you've been able to build up those fans.